I got cheated by my girlfriend and take revenge by becoming a CEO. I've always been the underdog. Growing up in an orphanage after losing my mother, I learned early on that life doesn't hand you anything. I worked hard every day as an ordinary employee at a mid-sized tech company, scraping by on my meager salary. But I found solace in my girlfriend, Emily. She was my light, my support, and the one person who made the daily grind worth it. Emily and I met at work. She was bright, ambitious, and had a way of making everyone feel special. I admired her drive and often daydreamed about a future together, one filled with love and stability. Little did I know that everything would come crashing down. One afternoon, I overheard some whispers in the break room. Emily was laughing a little too hard at something Marcus, our manager, said. At first, I brushed it off as harmless office banter. But as weeks passed, I noticed more late nights at work and more secretive conversations. My gut twisted with suspicion, then came the day that shattered my world. I walked into the office early to surprise Emily with coffee, only to find her in a passionate embrace with Marcus in his office. My heart sank as reality hit me like a freight train. The woman I loved had betrayed me with the very man who held power over both our careers. When Emily saw me standing there, shock washed over her face. "Noah, it's not what it looks like." She stammered, but it was exactly what it looked like. I turned away, trying to hold back tears as I left the office feeling like my entire life had crumbled in an instant. What Emily didn't know was that fate had other plans for me. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. It was a representative from the company's legal department. "Mr. Lang," they said, "we need to discuss your family history." It turned out that I was the lost son of the company chairman and heir who had been separated from his family after my mother passed away. The company had been searching for me for years, and now that they found me, they wanted me to take my rightful place as CEO. At first, I was overwhelmed by the news, but then a fire ignited within me. This was my chance not just to reclaim my identity, but also to take control of my life and seek revenge on those who wronged me. As I stepped into my new role as CEO, everything changed. I quickly learned how to navigate the corporate landscape and began implementing changes that would reshape the company's culture. With each passing day, I felt more empowered and determined to make Emily realize the consequences of her betrayal. I made sure to keep Emily close after all. She still worked under me as a team lead. Watching her squirm as she realized who I really was brought me a sense of satisfaction I hadn't expected. One day, during a team meeting where we discussed upcoming projects, I called Emily out directly. "Emily," I said calmly but firmly, "I believe you have something to say about your recent conduct." The room fell silent as everyone turned to her. Her face flushed with embarrassment and fear as she stammered for words. "I didn't mean for things to happen like this." I held up my hand to silence her excuses. "You made your choice when you decided to betray our relationship for a fleeting moment of power." After that meeting, things changed drastically for Emily. Her reputation suffered as whispers spread throughout the office about her affair with Marcus, and now with me being CEO, there was nowhere for her to hide. Months passed, and Emily's once promising career dwindled into obscurity while mine soared higher than ever before. It felt surreal to walk through the halls of the company knowing that I had transformed from an ordinary employee into its leader, all while watching her fall from grace. Eventually, Emily approached me one last time in my office, desperation written all over her face. "Noah," she pleaded, "I'm sorry. Can we talk? Can we fix this?" I looked at her without a hint of sympathy. "You had your chance when you chose Marcus over me." With that final confrontation, she left my office for good. As I stood there alone in my office overlooking the city skyline, I felt a mix of triumph and sadness wash over me. Revenge had come at a cost. It had changed who I was and how I viewed relationships. But in reclaiming my identity and rising above betrayal, I discovered something far more valuable. Strength comes not just from power, but from knowing your worth even when life tries to knock you down. And while Emily may have lost everything because of her choices, I emerged victorious not just as CEO, but as someone who finally learned how to stand tall against betrayal and forge my own path forward. I won the lottery and got my sweet revenge on my ex. This is the story of how I went from being broke and heartbroken to winning the lottery and getting back at my ex-girlfriend. Let me take you back to a few months ago. I was living in a tiny studio apartment in a not-so-great part of town. My rent was late more often than not, and my fridge was mostly empty except for some expired takeout containers and a few cans of beans. I was working to minimum wage jobs just to make ends meet, and it felt like I was running on a hamster wheel, exhausting but getting nowhere. My girlfriend, Jenna, and I had been together for years. We started dating in college when we were both broke and dreaming big. But as time went on, she grew frustrated with my financial situation. She wanted the nice things in life, dinners at fancy restaurants, vacations, and designer clothes, things I couldn't provide. One day, out of the blue, she told me she was leaving me for someone who could give her the life she wanted. She walked out with her new boyfriend, leaving me with nothing but my old car, a rusty hatchback that barely ran. I felt like my world had crumbled around me. Fast forward to one fateful night when I was sitting on my couch, staring at the wall and feeling sorry for myself. I saw an ad for the lottery while scrolling through social media. In a moment of desperation mixed with hope, I decided to buy a ticket online. What's the worst that could happen? I thought. The next day, I woke up groggy and checked my phone for the winning numbers. As I read them aloud, my heart raced faster with each digit. When I realized that I had won $10 million, disbelief washed over me like a tidal wave. I jumped up and down in my tiny living room, screaming like a madman. After the initial shock wore off, reality set in. This money could change everything. But as the excitement bubbled inside me, another feeling emerged: revenge. Once the euphoria of winning settled down, my thoughts turned to Jenna. She had always looked down on me because of my financial struggles, and now it was time for me to show her what she had lost. Not out of spite, but as a way to reclaim my self-worth. The first thing on my list was to sell that old rust bucket she left behind. It had been nothing but a reminder of my past failures. After selling it for a decent price online, I used part of my winnings to buy a brand new luxury car, something sleek and eye-catching that would turn heads. Next up was finding a place that reflected my new status. I rented a gorgeous penthouse apartment downtown with stunning views of the skyline and all the amenities you could dream of: pool, gym, rooftop terrace, you name it. To really drive my point home, I planned an extravagant housewarming party and made sure to invite all our mutual friends, and yes, Jenna too. This wasn't just about showing off, it was about celebrating my new life. The night of the party arrived, and I was buzzing with excitement and nerves as guests started arriving. When Jenna walked in with her new boyfriend, let's call him Chad, I could see her jaw drop as she took in my transformation. I greeted everyone with enthusiasm while secretly enjoying Jenna's reaction from afar. She looked around at all the lavish decorations and fancy hors d'oeuvres being served by wait staff I'd hired for the evening. As the night went on, Jenna tried to engage in small talk with me about mundane things like work or mutual friends' lives, but you could see her discomfort growing as people complimented me on my new lifestyle. At one point during the party, Jenna pulled me aside into a quieter corner of the apartment where we could talk without being overheard. "Did you really have to go all out just to show me up?" she asked, her voice tinged with annoyance. I smiled softly and replied, "Oh no. This isn't about you at all. This is just who I am now." Her expression shifted from annoyance to shock as she processed what I had said. It felt liberating to finally stand tall after all those years of feeling inadequate next to her expectations. After the party ended, Jenna reached out several times over the next few weeks trying to rekindle our relationship. She claimed she made a mistake and wanted another chance because things weren't going well with Chad. But here's the thing, while it felt good to have that moment of revenge, what mattered most was that I had finally found my self-worth without her validation. I didn't need her anymore. I had built a life filled with opportunities and happiness that didn't include her or anyone who judged me based on my financial status. So here I am now, living my best life post-lottery win and enjoying every moment without looking back at past heartbreaks or regrets. Sometimes life throws you curveballs that lead you exactly where you need to be. Thanks for reading. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you seek revenge or just move on?
I disguised as a janitor to spy on my son's girlfriend.
I've always believed that money can't buy character, but I never expected my son's girlfriend, Sarah, to be so shamelessly ambitious. As the chairwoman of a successful company, I had seen many people come and go, but Sarah's rudeness and scheming nature made my blood boil. She was only with my son, Jake, for his wealth, and I knew it was time to put her to the test. One day, I decided to disguise myself as a janitor in my own company. It was a risky move, but I wanted to see how Sarah treated those she considered beneath her. I donned a faded uniform, complete with a cap and a mop in hand. My plan was simple: observe her interactions and gather evidence of her true character. As I cleaned the floors, I overheard conversations that confirmed my suspicions. Sarah strutted around like she owned the place, belittling employees and flaunting her relationship with Jake. It made my stomach turn. She was scheming to get her hands on our family fortune, and I couldn't let that happen. While working undercover, I noticed Jake's secretary, Lily. She was humble, hardworking, and treated everyone with respect, qualities that were rare in our corporate world. The more I watched her interact with others, the more I realized she would be the perfect match for my son. One afternoon, while cleaning near the break room, I overheard Sarah making plans with Marcus, another manager. They were discussing how to manipulate Jake into giving Sarah more control over his finances. My heart raced. This was exactly what I needed to expose her. After gathering enough evidence, I decided it was time to confront Sarah. I revealed my true identity in front of the entire office during a meeting. "Sarah," I said loudly, "you've been caught red-handed." The room fell silent as she paled at the sight of me in my chairwoman attire. "What do you mean?" she stammered. "I've seen how you treat others and how you plan to exploit my son's kindness for your gain," I declared. "You think you can manipulate him into giving you everything? Not on my watch." The look of shock on her face was priceless as I presented the evidence of her scheming ways, emails and recordings from her conversations with Marcus. With the truth out in the open, the board members were quick to act. Sarah was fired on the spot for her unprofessional behavior and manipulative tactics. As she stormed out of the office in humiliation, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, but it didn't end there. I turned to Lily and offered her a promotion to head of operations, something she truly deserved for her loyalty and hard work. Ake was surprised but thrilled when he learned about Lily's new position and how she had been an ally during my undercover operation. In the weeks that followed, Jake and Lily grew closer as they worked together. It became clear that they were meant for each other, to genuine souls who respected one another. As for me, I learned that sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands to protect those you love. Disguising myself as a janitor may have seemed extreme, but it allowed me to see the truth clearly. In the end, we not only rid ourselves of a schemer but also found someone who truly belonged in our family, a reminder that integrity and kindness always win in the end.
My ultimate revenge to my bullies. My name is Mia, and I grew up in a small town where the sun rarely shone on the outcasts. From a young age, I was the target of relentless bullying. My classmates, led by a girl named Rachel, took pleasure in belittling me. They would call me names, spread rumors, and even physically intimidate me. I was the shy girl with thick glasses and a passion for art, an easy target for their cruelty. The worst moment came during my junior year of high school. I had worked tirelessly on a painting for the annual art show, pouring my heart into it. When I arrived at school that day, I found my artwork vandalized, covered in paint and insults. Rachel stood there, laughing with her friends as they filmed my humiliation. I felt like my world had crumbled. But that moment ignited something inside me, a fire that would not be extinguished. I swore that one day, I would rise above them all and show them what true success looked like. I began to channel my pain into my art, creating pieces that reflected my struggle and resilience. After graduation, I moved to a big city to pursue a degree in fine arts. I worked multiple jobs to support myself while studying, often staying up late into the night to finish assignments and create new artwork. My passion became my refuge, and slowly but surely, I started gaining recognition in local galleries. Then came the day that changed everything. I won a prestigious art competition that came with a $100,000 cash prize. It was more money than I had ever seen in my life. With that prize, I decided to invest in myself fully. I used the money to start my own art studio and gallery, Mia's Vision. It became a hub for local artists and a space for community engagement. As word spread about my work and the gallery's mission to uplift marginalized voices, sales skyrocketed. Within 3 years, I transformed my small studio into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. But even as success enveloped me, the memories of Rachel and her friends haunted me. They had gone on with their lives as if nothing had happened while I had fought tooth and nail to escape the shadows of my past. The thought of them living their ordinary lives while I thrived fueled my desire for revenge. I devised a plan, not just to confront them, but to show them how far I had come. My gallery would host an exclusive exhibition titled From Pain to Power, showcasing pieces inspired by my journey. But this wouldn't just be any exhibition. I would invite Rachel and her friends personally. As the date approached, excitement mixed with anxiety coursed through me. Would they even come? Did they remember how they treated me? The night before the exhibition, as I stood in front of my most powerful piece, a self-portrait titled Resilience, I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. The night of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery buzzed with energy. Guests mingled among the artwork while sipping wine and discussing their interpretations of each piece. When Rachel and her friends walked in, dressed in their designer clothes, it felt like time had stopped. They glanced around with an air of superiority until their eyes landed on me standing confidently at the center of the gallery. The shock on their faces was priceless as they realized this was my world now, not theirs. "Welcome to a From Pain to Power," I announced with a smile that felt both genuine and fierce. "Tonight is about transformation, how we can rise from our pasts." Their expressions shifted from surprise to discomfort as they began to understand what this night truly represented. And just when it seemed like everything was going according to plan. Like and subscribe for part 2. My Ultimate Revenge to My Bullies part 2. And just when it seemed like everything was going according to plan. As Rachel and her friends stood frozen at the entrance of the gallery, whispers spread among the crowd about who they were and what they had done to me years ago. The atmosphere shifted, people began to connect the dots between their past cruelty and my present success. I took a deep breath and approached them directly. "It's been a long time," I said evenly, locking eyes with Rachel. "I hope you enjoy the exhibition." She forced a laugh but couldn't hide her discomfort as she glanced around at the artwork surrounding us, each piece telling stories of pain transformed into strength. "Wow, Mia," she said sarcastically, "this is impressive." But there was no conviction in her voice, she knew she couldn't downplay what she saw. I gestured toward Resilience, my self-portrait that captured not just sorrow but also defiance, a fierce woman reclaiming her power through art. "This one is particularly special," I said softly but firmly. "It represents everything you put me through." The crowd began to gather around us as whispers turned into conversations about bullying and redemption. People shared their own stories of overcoming adversity, stories that echoed mine, and suddenly it wasn't just about me anymore, it was about all of us rising together against cruelty. Rachel's bravado faded as she realized how many people were listening, how many had been affected by bullying just like I had been. Her friends shifted uncomfortably beside her, some even looked ashamed. "I didn't know," Rachel stammered finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," I interrupted gently but firmly. "You didn't know because you never bothered to look beyond your own insecurities." The truth hung heavily in the air between us as silence enveloped our conversation. In that moment, everyone could see who she really was, a bully hiding behind her facade of confidence. But instead of lashing out or seeking vengeance through anger, I chose compassion, a chance for growth for both of us. "We all have choices," I continued softly yet powerfully. "You can choose to learn from this or remain trapped in your past." As Rachel's eyes filled with tears, something shifted within her. Perhaps she finally understood what it meant to be held accountable for one's actions. The night continued with laughter and connections being made among guests who were inspired by our exchange, people finding strength in vulnerability rather than shame. But as Rachel walked away from our conversation, her friends trailing behind her, I couldn't help but wonder, would this moment change anything for her? Would she take this opportunity for reflection seriously or simply brush it off as another awkward encounter? For more Reddit stories, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I am an heiress and got cheated by my boyfriend, and I take revenge on his company. I never thought I'd be the girl who got cheated on. Joshua Lang was everything I wanted, a brilliant CEO with ambition and charm. We were together for 3 years, and I thought we were building a future. But the night I found out about his infidelity shattered that illusion. It started with a simple text from a friend. "Did you hear about Joshua and Tara? They were all over each other at the launch party." My heart sank. Tara was one of his coworkers, and I had always felt uneasy about her. I decided to confront him. When I walked into his office the next day, he looked up, surprise etched on his face. "Mia. What's wrong?" "Don't play dumb, Joshua. I know about you and Tara." His expression shifted from shock to guilt. "I can explain." "Save it. You've made your choice." I turned to leave, but something inside me snapped. I wasn't just Mia Whitlock, I was Mia Gerber, the hidden heiress of Gerber Corporation, one of the largest companies in the country. My family had kept my identity a secret to protect me from opportunists like him. As I walked out, a plan began to form in my mind. Joshua thought he could have it all, me and his little fling, while climbing the corporate ladder. But he had no idea who he was messing with. Using my family's resources, I started to infiltrate Joshua's world. I attended meetings under a pseudonym, investing in companies that were in direct competition with his startup. It felt exhilarating to watch as his once thriving business began to crumble under the pressure. I orchestrated everything meticulously, leaking information about his company's weaknesses to key investors, sabotaging partnerships, and even planting doubts among his employees. As the weeks went by, I could see the panic in his eyes during our brief encounters. He was losing control, and it felt amazing. One evening, after a particularly disastrous board meeting for him, Joshua showed up at my apartment unannounced. His eyes were wild with desperation as he pleaded for another chance. Mia, please. I made a mistake, he said, his voice cracking. Did you? Or did you just get caught? I replied coldly. He looked taken aback. I love you. We can fix this. But it was too late for apologies. You don't even know who I really am, I said, revealing my true identity for the first time. His face paled as realization dawned on him. You're Mia Gerber. I nodded slowly, savoring the moment. And this is just the beginning of your downfall. Just as he reached for my arm, desperate to hold on to something that was slipping away, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. I know what you're doing. You're not safe. My heart raced as dread washed over me. Who could possibly know? Was there someone else pulling strings behind the scenes? As Joshua's confused expression morphed into concern, I realized that my revenge might come at a cost greater than I anticipated. I stood frozen, the weight of the anonymous message heavy in my hand. Joshua's eyes darted between my phone and my face, confusion and fear etched across his features. Mia, what does that mean? He asked, his voice trembling. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. It means I'm not the only one who knows about your betrayal. Someone is watching me, and they're not afraid to use that information against me. Joshua stepped closer, desperation evident in his tone. We can figure this out together. If someone's threatening you, I can help. I shook my head, a mix of anger and betrayal flooding my veins. You think I trust you after what you did? You're the reason I'm in this mess. Just then, my phone buzzed again. I glanced down to see a new message. Meet me at the old warehouse on 5th Street if you want to know more. Come alone. My heart raced. It was a risk, but I needed answers. I looked up at Joshua, who was still pleading with me. Stay out of this, I warned him. I can handle it. Before he could respond, I grabbed my jacket and rushed out the door, leaving him standing there, frustration and regret written all over his face. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. As I stepped inside, the air felt thick with tension. A figure emerged from the shadows, an old acquaintance from my past who had ties to both my family and Joshua's startup. Mia, they said with a smirk. You've stirred up quite a storm. What do you want? I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady. I know about your little revenge plan, they replied casually. And it's impressive. But you should know that playing with fire can get you burned. Is that a threat? I shot back. Not a threat, just a warning. If you continue down this path, you might lose more than just Joshua's trust. You could lose everything. I felt a chill run down my spine as their words sank in. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about my future and the legacy of Gerber Corporation. As I weighed my options, I realized that revenge had consumed me. It was time to take control, not just of Joshua's fate, but of my own life as well. I'm done playing games, I said firmly. If you want to threaten me, go ahead. But know this, I won't let anyone dictate my future. With that declaration, I turned on my heel and walked out of the warehouse, determination fueling each step. As I reached for my phone to call Joshua, against my better judgment, I knew that this was only the beginning. Days turned into weeks as I worked tirelessly to stabilize Gerber Corporation while simultaneously dismantling Joshua's startup from the inside out, without him ever realizing it was me behind the curtain. In the end, it wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my power and proving that I was more than just someone's girlfriend or an heiress hidden in the shadows. As for Joshua, he eventually lost everything he had built, his company crumbled under financial strain and betrayal from within. And while part of me felt satisfaction in his downfall, another part mourned what we once had. But life goes on. I emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before, ready to forge my own path, without the weight of betrayal holding me back. And as for that anonymous message? It served as a reminder that shadows linger everywhere, but now, I was no longer afraid of them. I would face whatever came next head on. The game had changed. Now it was time for me to play it on my own terms. Share.
Lever. 10. Potato. Player view. Potato. Bird, dirt, log. Player view.